I'm H.G. Tudor. You will recall from the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II that there was opportunity to look at the dynamic between Sophie, an empathic individual, and Harry's wife. We saw two instances, at least, of that. The first, where they travelled together in a car, and I provided you with how her freezing out Harry's wife caused repeated and sustained wounding against Harry's wife. I also detailed the shielding behaviour of Sophie in relation to Princess Charlotte to keep Harry's wife at bay. Interestingly, a publication called The List, with an article by Hannah Rice, looks to examine the relationship between Harry's wife and Sophie, Countess of Wessex. Let us see if she understands the dynamic between the two, or whether she fails to do so. From an outsider's perspective, Harry's wife, Duchess of Sussex, and Sophie, Countess of Wessex, might seem like total opposites. Harry's wife, for one, is so unpopular with the British royal family that she was excluded from their 2022 Christmas bash at Sandringham House, as per the Mirror. Wounding. Sophie, meanwhile, is beloved at Buckingham Palace, thanks to her famously close friendship with the late Queen Elizabeth. In 2021, one anonymous courtier even told The Sun, "If you're asking who is Her Majesty's favourite child, it's none of them. It's her daughter-in-law, Sophie." Because of these two women's drastically different social situations, it would be easy to assume that they don't get along. However, the reality is much more complicated than that. As seen at Queen Elizabeth's funeral, the Duchess and the Countess neither seem to be best friends nor sworn enemies. Express reported that Harry's wife and Sophie shared a car during the Queen's procession, and while one royal expert, Neil Shawn, reported that Harry's wife almost buckled when informed she would be sharing a car with Sophie, and the reason being is that that's challenge fuel, because she knows that Sophie doesn't like her, and also knows that Sophie won't stand for any nonsense. Another specialist thought that the car ride went swimmingly. Rachel Bowie, the co-host of the Royal Obsessed podcast, opined, per Express, to see Sophie riding in the car with Harry's wife, sometimes you have that one strong person in the family who's kind of keeping everyone together. To me, it seemed like Sophie was that person today. Well, Rachel Bowie, you know nothing about the dynamic between an empathic individual who has drawn a line in the sand and has said, "I'm not tolerating your behaviour any longer. I'm not speaking to you. I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not going to deal with you. I'm sending a clear signal of my contempt for you." And the dynamic with the narcissist also. That individual, to think that it went swimmingly, clearly does not understand the narcissistic dynamic. To put it bluntly, Harry's wife took a beating, figuratively speaking, that day. The article continues. Overall, despite all the royal drama, Harry's wife and Sophie have managed to coexist in relative peace. Well, they're not going to start trying to scratch one another's eyes out and pull one another's hair, so you're never going to have that scenario. Although Harry's wife and Sophie, Countess of Wessex, have had very different experiences of royal life, the two women have similar pasts. Neither Harry's wife nor Sophie was born into the royal family, and both spent many years in the workforce. Before marrying Prince Harry, Harry's wife dabbled in more than one industry. During her school-age years, the future Duchess of Sussex worked a minimum-wage job as an ice cream scooper. She later tried her hand, literally, at professional calligraphy, well, basically putting curly bits on cursive. Ultimately, though, Harry's wife made her name acting in the hit, if you say so, TV show Suits. Likewise, the Countess of Wessex worked in a number of different areas before becoming a royal. According to Britannica, Sophie worked as a bartender, a concierge at a Swiss ski resort, and a press officer at Capital Radio. Just like Harry's wife, Sophie eventually grew into a successful career woman. She even co-founded a public relations company, formerly known as RJH. Unfortunately, neither Harry's wife nor Sophie could continue working after joining the royal family. As Harry's wife told the BBC in 2017, she had to transition out of my career, but into the royal role. Similarly, the Wall Street Journal reported that Sophie was forced to abandon her company just 2 years after marrying into the family. Per the outlet, a leaked tape revealed that there were too many conflicts of interest between Sophie's business goals and her royal connections. But notice the difference, of course, between them, whereby both have had to give up, told that they ought to give up. Harry's wife didn't really, did she? Sophie did so and joined the organisation, keeping her head down, assimilating into it, not causing problems, whereas Harry's wife, because of her narcissism, fought against it. Harry's wife and Sophie, Countess of Wessex, both worked in their younger years, and their similarities don't stop there. The two royal women also have shared interests, especially when it comes to standing up for girls' and women's rights. In an episode of The Royal Beat, Russell Myers, who served as the Mirror's royal editor, noted Harry's wife and Sophie's common passion for women's empowerment. Yes, but again, this is useful to demonstrate that an empath and a narcissist can do similar things, have similar interests, but the driver behind them is completely different. For Sophie, her driver is her emotional empathy. She genuinely and honestly does care about women's empowerment. Harry's wife thinks that she does, but her narcissism makes her utilize that as a means for facade management, false compassion, to assert control over people by causing them to think that she's kind and caring, to draw fuel from them by way of their reactions. The article continues, the similarities between Sophie and Harry's wife are there to be seen. Actually, they aren't similar in terms of what they are. They might be similar in terms of working background, joining the royal family, things they like to do, but believe me, they're poles apart with regard to the actual type of people that they are. Sophie's working with girls' education. She's done a lot of stuff about violence against females in Africa. According to CNBC, Harry's wife has been fighting for women's rights since the age of 11. Well, as part of a group project, and of course, repeatedly bringing that up as part of bringing up the past. As an adult, the outlet reports that the Duchess served as a UN women's advocate for political participation and leadership. Although Harry's wife and Sophie share similar beliefs about women and girls, they have very different ways of promoting their activism, and they also reach different demographics. As Russell Myers shared on the Royal Beat, are the Instagram generation going to be as obsessed with Sophie and Edward Wessex as they are with the Sussexes? Obviously not. The royal editor went on to hint that Sophie and Harry's wife might have even felt some rivalry over promoting the same causes. Well, undoubtedly there would be from Harry's wife, because the Countess of Wessex would be seen as a threat to control. Harry's wife might be famous for struggling to adjust to royal life, but she's hardly the first person to feel this way. For years, royal newcomers like Princess Diana, no Diana, Princess of Wales, and Sarah Ferguson have felt overwhelmed by issues of protocol, press attention, and public criticism. Like her predecessor, Sophie, Countess of Wessex, was not spared a challenging transition to the royal household. But notice, of course, did she go on and threaten memoirs and do tell-all Oprah interviews and have PR puff pieces? No, she did not. Why? Because her emotional empathy recognized that it was better to be circumspect, to be discreet, she considered how it would impact upon other people, and if she felt minded to talk about these things, her emotional empathy prevented her from doing so. Furthermore, she herself wasn't in the grip of a narcissist to cause her to feel justified to spill the beans in the way that Harry does. Judy James states, Sophie had a bit of a bad start in the royal family because she was hailed as being the next Diana, and she did begin to attract the same rabid attention. In some ways, however, Sophie's experiences with the British media could have helped Harry's wife. Well, of course, the Queen asked safe pair of hands Sophie to assist Harry's wife to integrate her, but she refused, once again, because Harry's wife thinks she knows best and that she knows better than anybody else what to do. In an excerpt from the book, the Queen apparently told Harry's wife, Sophie can help show you the ropes. Seemingly the reason for this was that the Queen, who of course had seen it all before, understood that Harry's girl might find adjusting to royal life challenging to begin with. Oh, but wasn't it the case, of course, that nobody actually helped Harry's wife, according to her victim mentality revision of history? It's very jolty, the article states, but you soon get used to it. That was Her Majesty's experience, going back many years. The Queen may have hoped that Sophie, Countess of Wessex, and Harry's wife would be close, but things didn't exactly pan out that way. Per Giles Brandreth's book, Elizabeth, An Intimate Portrait, Harry's wife wasn't keen on creating close ties with Sophie, reason being it was a threat to control and because she thinks she knows best. As Brandreth wrote, Harry's wife made it clear that she did not feel she needed Sophie's help. She had Harry. Apparently, Harry's wife's reaction left Queen Elizabeth feeling worried about the Duchess's transition into the firm. The Queen was a little concerned at that, but she put it down to pre-wedding nerves. While it might seem odd for Harry's wife to reject Sophie's support, no, not at all. To those of us, of course, that are versed in narcissism, it seems entirely understandable. It was also important to remember that the Duchess of Sussex admittedly knew little about royal life before signing up for the gig, which would make it all the more appropriate to take the assistance from somebody who's been there and done it, but not Harry's wife, because she's the expert in everything. In the Netflix documentary Harry and Harry's Wife, the former Suits actor confessed to feeling shocked in the face of basic royal protocol. Describing the first time she met Queen Elizabeth, Harry's wife told documentary makers, "I remember we were in the car driving and Prince Harry's like, you know how to curtsy, right? And I just thought it was a joke." That demonstrates her self-obsessed nature, her flippancy. In that sense, it is possible that Harry's wife didn't initially understand that she could ever need Sophie's mentorship. No, it's not a case of that. She just thinks she knows best. She thinks she knows better than anybody else because she's Harry's wife. Harry's wife did ultimately lament her total lack of preparation for the royal role. She only did so after the event by way of a pity play. This article fails to understand that they are completely two different people, and once again demonstrates the lack of knowledge about narcissism and the other classifications of people. We can see the difference in behaviour of Sophie and the difference in behaviour of Harry's wife, even though there are similarities in introduction to the royal family, background, and so forth. Sophie embraced it, driven by her emotional empathy and her empathic traits. Harry's wife fought against it because of her brand of narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.